The November Man is a spy thriller. The story follows Peter Devereaux, a retired CIA agent known as the November Man, who is lured out of retirement for one last mission. He is tasked with protecting Alice Fournier, a valuable witness who could expose a decades-long conspiracy involving a Russian president-elect. As Devereaux embarks on this mission, he faces challenges from his former protege, David Mason, and uncovers a web of deceit and danger. Beginning of the movie, please be aware that the opening scene may contain spoilers. Peter Dio, David Mason's mentor, approaches him when he is flirting with a female he has feelings for and gives him dating advice. He discloses that if they want information from him, they may use the girl as leverage. David is terrified when he sees someone with a camera, but Peter advises him to buy a puppy in case he needs love. CIA operatives David and Peter are currently on a mission to safeguard an ambassador. They switch outfits when Peter chooses him. However, in order to protect the perimeters, David positions his sniper rifle inside one of the buildings. He outlines the possible objectives. However, since they lack sufficient enforcement, Oswell wants them to call off the operation due to the presence of the potential gunman, David. But one guy from the throng gets up after Peter leaves and pretends to be the ambassador. When Peter spots a small kid fleeing, he warns David not to fire. Peter is shot many times by the guy, but David also shoots him. His body armor saves Peter, although it saddens Peter that the youngster is murdered in the process. 5 years later, Peter, a former CIA operative, is now on loan in Switzerland. He receives a call from someone who wants to speak with him. As it happens, it's John Hanley, Peter's former handler from his time in the CIA. He displays to him the pictures of deceased agents who were Peter's co-workers. He discloses that they had determined that the assassin was a Russian called Alexa, who had been hired by Arad Fedorov, a presidential aspirant. When Peter believes his previous misdeeds have nothing to do with him, Fedorov wants to remove everyone who is aware of them. Hanley shows him someone else's file. Natalie Lanova and Peter had an affair in the past. Now an undercover spy, Natalie is very close to Fedorov and possesses knowledge that might permanently destroy Fedorov. Additionally, Fedorov's war crimes at Chetna might be linked to her name. In order to provide the CIA with the information she has in the Russian parliament in Moscow, Hanley wants Peter to take Natalie out, claiming that she merely asked Peter. Natalie is Fedorov's right hand as he begins his address at the press conference. Natalie accesses his vault and goes to his office. She pulls out pictures of the same girl and takes pictures of them. Fedorov is presently heading back to his office after the address. After quickly putting everything back, Natalie appears tidy and leaves as Fedorov arrives. Fedorov finds the key Natalie left in the safe when he's downstairs. He discovers that there has been a break-in when he unlocks the vault. To drive to the extraction, Natalie gets into her vehicle. At the U.S. Embassy in Belgrade, Point is followed by the CIA event. After arranging the extraction in around 5 minutes, Hanley and other CIA agents are now pursuing Natalie. The CIA extraction team includes David. Perry Weinstein calls Hanley via video chat and informs her that other companies will soon want the knowledge Natalie possesses. The Russian espionage organization FSB pursues Natalie. She flees the automobile once her cover is compromised, but Peter quickly saves her and beckons her into his vehicle. She wasn't expecting him, as it turns out, but he drives off. Surprisingly, Hanley never informed the CIA that he had invited Peter, so they also don't know who picked up Natalie. Peter is questioned by Natalie about their daughter. Because Lucy Weinstein thinks Natalie's knowledge may get up in the wrong hands, she gives the CIA the order to kill her. After Natalie tells Peter that she is Mila Filipova, the person with Fedorov's secrets, Peter provides the name to Hanley David, who climbs to the top of the building and shoots Natalie, causing an accident. Natalie gives him a phone before she passes away. As the CIA team is departing, Peter becomes enraged and storms out to get revenge for her murder. Peter attacks them, killing the driver and the other 2 agents, although David lives for a little time. Surprisingly, they both pull pistols on one another, but they keep silent, and David blows up the vehicle. After grabbing a cab, Peter begins looking at the pictures on the phone Natalie handed him. Then, while Hanley is at home looking for Mila, the name Peter provided him, he takes out the memory card and tosses the phone. His home is broken into by the CIA strike team. To stop them from accessing the data back at his flat, he shoots the computer. While she invites him to a private call and arranges for him to be transferred to the refugee center in Belgrade, David finds the neighbor's cat inside his home and brings it back. Edgar Simpson, a writer for the New York Times, approaches Alice Fourier to seek information on Fedorov. Alice cautions Edgar that exposing Fedorov might be risky and expresses her desire to get politically active at Belgrade International Airport. After arriving, Alexa settles into a motel and prepares her weapons. However, when Weinstein questions David about why he didn't shoot Peter after he murdered other agents, David admits that he was confused. Weinstein questions why Peter refrained from shooting David. In any case, he gives him files of Peter's previous relationships during a private conversation. He discloses that Natalie and Peter were close, and he intends to get revenge for her death. David affirms that he has no trouble carrying out Weinstein's command to kill Peter. Now that he's at Hannah's apartment, Peter smashes two CIA officers who are attempting to readjust the drive. After arriving at a cyber cafe, Alexa encounters a hacker who provides her with information on Mila and explains that Alice is connected to Mila, which is how she obtained Alice's address. CI and David are keeping tabs. Peter, who is now at Hannah's apartment to see how Alice is doing, uses their phone to pretend to be the CIA tech team and requests Alice's address and phone number. When Peter doesn't answer, David begs Peter to phone the other text because there were two. David feels something and asks Celia to do so. Peter is ahead. When Peter arrives to Alice's place of employment, Alexa has pretended to be a waiter in order to phone Alice. When Alexa grabs for a knife, Peter summons her and tells her that she is an assassin. Peter orders her to go, but a pursuit starts as soon as the CIA, led by David, suddenly appears. Alice is held by Peter as they dash through the kitchen. Peter calls David and his group who are trying to find him. Peter mocks David for using a phone scanner to trace him, saying that the 6 agents won't catch him. Alice wants to know what's happening, but Peter assures her that if she needs protection, she should trust him. When one agent follows her when she is acting alone, Peter strikes him, tampers with his phone, and walks away. David gets Peter's call once again while the CIA meets with the wounded operative. They find out that the call was cut off while they are tracing it, which leads them to their agent's phone. As they talk about their pasts, Peter is able to mentally torment David while the search is still going on. Peter rips the fuel line, sets off an alarm, and breaks in a vehicle window as he and Alice dash to a parking lot. David detects a trap as he and his group arrive and see the automobile. As expected, Peter has already hot-wired another vehicle and is driving off with Peter fires at the gasoline leak when David gets there, Alice causing the other vehicle to blow up and letting them escape when Edgar exits the restaurant. Without getting his permission, Alexa follows him. Peter asks Alice the location of Mila Filipova, but she says she doesn't know where she is. He tells her that everyone looking for Mila will turn to get Alice. If they fail to get Mila, they board a train, and she tells him that she has a file on Mila Filipa, and they proceed to look into the file. He asks her again where he can get her, but she denies knowing there. He sees a photo of someone Alice knows as Lebedo, a renowned pimp. But Peter tells him that his real name is Simeoni Denisov and was Fedorov's man in the Chicha War. They meet him at his strip, and Peter tells him that Fedorov is cleaning everyone who knows about his past war crimes. He inquires why Fedorov is killing the people and what he did. Denisov tells him that Chia has oil, which Russia is interested in also before the last second Chia War. A building exploded with Russian soldiers inside, which sparked off the war. Secretly, it was a plan by Fedorov and the CIA, which leaves Peter stunned at the CIA black site. Celia tries to interrogate Hanley about his relationship with Peter, but Henley seems rude to her at the office. Weinstein lets David know what Peter thinks of him in his own country. When David looks through the flash, he sees pictures of Peter and Natalie, but he warned him not to get attached to women. After Peter reported that David was careless, disobedient, and should be removed from his position as an agent, David becomes enraged. He takes the neighbor's cat again and introduces himself. Her name is Sarah. Peter and Alice talk about Mila's safety while walking outside the street and using several phones. Peter drinks a sip of vodka from the cupboard before breaking into an apartment where the couple has departed. He then walks over to the window to monitor the apartment across. He watches David and Sarah get into a cab and drive off. David chose to enjoy life more than his profession while playing the piano, which is why he and Sarah are currently at a club. When Alice unintentionally uses a Russian term, Peter is shocked. She tells him that she learned Russian from her parents, who were professors at a university. Now that they're back together, David and Sarah seem to be quite close. Inside David's flat, they had a great time. After getting dressed, Peter informs Alice that she is no longer able to move with him. He offers her money and a phone to conceal in a secure location. Sarah is gone when David wakes up, but he soon receives a text from her phone. He checks his firearms, but they're gone too. Peter is holding a pistol to Sarah's head when he gets to the kitchen. Peter plays with her head as David attempts to soothe her. He informs her that David is debating whether or not she is worth rescuing. After forcing her to ask David whether she is worth rescuing, Peter claims that David's hesitation demonstrates his case. Then David shouts, "Yes, she is worth saving." Peter informs him that his last lesson on his disregard for the individuals he murders while on duty is about to begin. Except David puts a knife to Sarah's neck and leaves his pistol there, telling him that he had no option except to murder Natalie while in Moscow. David orders him to release Sarah and reaches for the pistol. Before assessing it, Peter chooses to do one more assessment of David's genuine nature. Despite David's cries for him to stop, Peter slashes Sarah's right leg's femoral artery and walks away. She apparently lives when the ambulance is summoned, since David decides to rescue her and starts applying pressure to the wound. Despite arriving for a meeting, Fedorov initially meets with Alexa to get some instructions. Alice wants to tell Edgar what she knows about Fedorov, and they run into each other when he gets home. When he goes to fetch a recorder after she tells him about Mila, Alexa emerges from hiding and stabs him. She then attempts to end Alice, but Edgar stops her, allowing Alice to escape outdoors. After looking at Peter's pictures again, David discovers that he and Natalie had a daughter, which the CIA was unaware of at the CIA black site. When Peter shows there, he asks Hanley why he phoned him back. But Natalie was unaware of it. Natalie was an eyewitness to the Che War story in which America was complicit in the bombing of the building, Hanley informs him. Peter is informed by the guy that Weinstein ordered Natalie's death and collaborated with Fedorov. Peter discovers that Alice is Mila Filipova when he tells him about her and explains that her parents were academics who taught her Russian. David shows Weinstein the pictures of Peter and Lucy and tells him that Peter has a daughter. As they make their way to the Belgrade Hotel, the CIA begins to match Alice's face. Peter calls Alice. He now recognizes her as Mila Filipova and cautions her against pursuing Fedorov. But she disregards his counsel and goes to Fedorov's flat. She remembers Fedorov murdering her family in the restroom, but he spared her because he believed she was deaf. However, the actual Alice passed away 4 years ago, and the CIA has also discovered Alice's Mila. After setting a shattered mirror that seems to be a knife on Fedorov, Mila exits the restroom and grabs her weapon to place it to Fedorov's neck. He remembers her and tells her that she would have killed him by now if she had wanted to. She hesitates as he starts torturing her mentally once again. Then he flips the battle around by pinning Alice to the bed. When Peter first gets to the hotel, he fights the guards. Then, To rescue Mila, he storms into the room and orders her to fetch a phone so they can videotape him. Peter wants Fedorov to come clean about his crimes and the others he collaborated with at the CIA. When he doesn't cooperate, Peter plays a game of Russian roulette with him. When Bob eventually confesses that he plotted with John Hanley, Peter is shocked since Hanley had falsely claimed that it was Weinstein. Peter obtains the picture that Mila remembers and verifies was of Hanley. Peter and CIA operatives engage in a gunfight when he steps outdoors. Although he is there, David is unable to get Peter. He escapes the agents by giving Mila an access card that allows her to leave the building and go to a safer location. David follows Peter to the basement where they struggle, but eventually Peter chokes him to death and abandons him with Alice's phone. They decide to take F's confession to Weinstein after seeing it at the station, but when they reach to his office, they are shocked to discover Hanley there, telling David to sit down. Since running away is preferable than dying, Peter advises Alice to vanish when they rejoin at the hotel. After talking about their lifestyles, Peter tells her that he is a former agent who now runs his own companies. When he dials his daughter's phone, Hanley answers and has abducted her. Hanley confesses that David was the one who obtained them, despite his daughter's warning that he would kill him if he harms her. Lucy Hanley wants to exchange Mila for Lucy. Mila is instructed by Peter to go to the station and purchase 3 tickets for their escape as she does so. Hanley is met by Peter. According to Hanley, they essentially control Russia by possessing Fedorov. Once he is elected president, Hanley will compel him to join NATO, as they will all be able to launch attacks in the Middle East. Although Alexa knows where she is, the easy adversary sits down at a cafe to write an article that exposes Fedorov. Peter informs Hanley that David and other agents are being sent to get Mila, who is at the station. However, after seeing that Hanley is dishonest, David jams his man's seatbelt, races into the wall, instantly killing him, and then leaves to save Lucy while Mila is still at the cafe. When she sees Alexa, she flees, and when Alexa pulls out her pistol, she pursues her. Mila halts, drops her rifle, and strikes her with a shovel, causing her to shudder down the steps. Mila moves back to complete her journey after realizing Alexa is no longer a danger after picking it up. Peter has the opportunity to hold Hanley at gunpoint when David returns to him and shoots his guys. But he spares him, and he is left with David. He thanks him and then goes to the station with Lucy. Before joining Peter and Lucy, Mila completes her ordeal and submits it on Edgar Simpson's behalf. In a later deposition, Mila is discussing her awareness of Fedorov's plot with CIA agent John Hanley to cause the building explosion that sparked the Second Chin War and the death of her family by him. Fedorov's aspirations to become president stop when news storms everywhere. Fedorov, believing he got away with everything, goes on a boat with ladies in the last scene after denying all the claims. The film concludes when he is shot.